Welcome back to the Skyfall sessions. I'm your host, John. Thank you guys for watching again. If you can, please, before we get to the video, please like and subscribe. I'm growing this channel and it's pretty brand new, and so far it's been doing a pretty good job. So all of your help is appreciated. Anyways, I'm going to go ahead and get into this conversation that Kamala Harris had with Charlamagne, covered by TYT. Let's get into it.
Have you seen the clip, Madam Vice President, from the griot? It's a clip that's kind of out of context, and it says that you won't do anything specifically for Black people. Have you seen that?
I just want to quickly point out also that I also covered this on Roland Martin's interview with Kamala Harris, and Roland Martin gave her the opportunity to answer this question very well. So make sure to check that video out as well.
Okay.
I've not seen that.
Well, it's a clip that has you saying that you're not going to do anything specifically for Black people.
Well, that's just not true.
President Obama was out there last week waving his finger at Black men. When are Liz Cheney and Hillary Clinton going to wave their finger at white women? When are Bill Clinton and Joe Biden going to wave their finger at white men?
And I also want to point out really quick that we did a video on this as well, about Obama waving his finger, doing the finger wagging like he's saying here, and Roland Martin also breaks that down as well.
52% of white women voted for Trump in 2016. 55% voted for Trump in 2020. They all voted against their own interests. When the finger waving going to start at them?
How about we don't finger wag toward anyone, whether it's Black men, white women? I don't think scolding people is conducive to winning elections. That's just me. But Kamala Harris returned to the Breakfast Club for a town hall style conversation hosted by Charlamagne the God. And the topic of Black male voters increasingly supporting Donald Trump obviously came up. So let's watch how she responded to questions about that.
So just to break down the trends of the way that Black men vote. So in 2000, roughly 90% of Black voters overall voted for Al Gore. In 2008, when Obama came in for the first time, 95% of Black voters, including Black men, supported Barack Obama. And in 2012, that number dropped to 93% of Black voters. And then 2016, 82% of Black men supported Hillary. 2020, 81% voted Joe Biden. And then in 2024, 77% are likely to vote for Kamala Harris. So as you see, there's been a trending decline with Black men voting for the Democratic candidates, and that's what they're talking about here. This is all, of course, according to the Pew Research Center.
My plan includes making sure that for first-time home buyers, they have a $25,000 down payment assistance to just get their foot in the door, because we know folks will work hard, they'll save, and pay that monthly mortgage. Second point is to bring down the cost of housing generally, because one of the issues is we have a housing supply shortage, and so that's about working with the privates. In terms of our small businesses, which are part of the backbone of the economy of the Black community and part of the backbone of America's economy writ large, one of the big issues facing Black entrepreneurs and Black small businesses is access to capital. Because unlike my opponent, who got handed $400 million on a silver platter and then filed bankruptcy 6 times, don't forget that, calls himself a businessman, not everybody has access to the capital, but we know in the community we do not lack for ambition, aspirations, dreams, hard work ethic. We have brought down Black unemployment, I said this earlier, to one of the lowest levels in history. But I'm very clear. The community is not going to stand up and applaud just because everybody has a job. That should be a baseline. My agenda is about tapping into the ambitions and the aspirations, knowing that folks want to have an opportunity. If they want, they should have a meaningful opportunity to build wealth, including intergenerational wealth.
This is why people are calling Kamala Harris more left than some previous, or I guess, or at least more left than Joe Biden, because she's saying, yeah, it's not just about jobs. It's about, giving more access to people and giving people material gains, which is, not going to lie, it shouldn't be considered far left. But considering how corporate all of our politicians, including Democrats, are, it's pretty left.
So clearly you can notice that Kamala Harris is continuing with the more moderate, pro small business narrative in the way that she's presenting her policy arguments. And the one thing I really do want to give her and Biden credit for is it is actually true that the Black unemployment rate hit a record low under their administration. It's also true that prior to the Biden administration, Trump had made some gains in that area as well. He also had hit a record for lowering the unemployment rate among Black voters, but the Biden-Harris team surpassed him. So the unemployment rate hit an all-time low, a record low for the Black or African-American unemployment rate, 4.8%. That was set under Biden in April of 2023. That beat the Trump era low that was a record at the time, which was 5.3% in August of 2019 and September of 2019.
I also want to really quickly point out, if you guys are going to try to call Anna right wing because she gave Trump props for the low unemployment at the time, she's not right wing. It's just called speaking the truth. Okay, we should be reporting on the truth and not just what is advantageous to us. And even though obviously we're against Trump, that is also a fact. So get used to the facts on this channel.
Obviously, after that, the coronavirus pandemic increased unemployment for everybody. So that's why the numbers date back to late 2019, before the pandemic really took off. So Kamala was right to brag about those gains, and she should definitely do more of that on the campaign trail. Really talk about the fundamental ways the Biden administration managed to materially improve people's lives, the jobs that were created under the Biden administration. I think that is a winning message. So, we've been pretty critical of some of her more recent messaging, but I think she did well in that portion of the interview. Now, let's take a look at other things that she's proposing to ensure that she increases her support among Black male voters, because it is true that Trump has managed to, take some portion of those voters away from Democrats. So Philip Lewis had posted this on X earlier this week, and I thought it was interesting. He writes, Kamala Harris unveiled new policy proposals aimed at Black men, which includes providing 1 million loans to Black entrepreneurs, creating more Black male mentor programs, a health initiative for diseases like prostate cancer. My favorite was the last bullet point, which is protecting crypto assets. Got to look out for the donors. Got to look out for the donors. But the rest, forgivable loans, that's fine. She was actually asked about that during an interview recently, and someone asked about fraud. Like, well, what are you going to do to protect, taxpayers from this program, being used fraudulently? And that was an interesting exchange. It doesn't seem like she's really thought about that much yet. But that's kind of the problem with, in my opinion, her campaign. It's kind of like, since it all kind of came together last minute, given the fact that Biden refused to drop out until it was very late in the game, she's kind of coming up with policy proposals on the fly. And that does put her at a disadvantage compared to Trump, who's been thinking about these economic policies, for years now, things like tariffs and things like that. So
let's be really, really, really real. I disagree with Anna in terms of Trump thinking about policies for years, because I don't think Trump thinks about much of anything. I think he just says stuff. Also, he has no idea how tariffs work. So I just want to push back on that a little bit.
Now, while Obama ended up shaming Black men, which I thought was a really, really bad idea, essentially saying that, if you're a Black man who's not going to vote for Kamala Harris, well, it's probably sexism that's informing your decision to avoid doing so. Obviously, I'm paraphrasing, but that's essentially the message. That's what he implied. Now, I think that that's unfair to people. And what I'm about to show you is important to listen to, because it's better to listen to what voters are saying. Like, what is their rationale? Why are they opting to vote for Donald Trump instead of Kamala Harris?
But there might be some level of sexism. There is no evidence that sexism is widely the reason why there's such a sharp drop in Black male voters on the Democratic side. There's just no evidence of that whatsoever.
Listen to what they have to say. Don't straw man, don't put words in their mouths. And I'm mostly saying this for the Democratic Party, because if you want to win these voters back, then you have to listen to what they're saying. You have to genuinely be curious about what their concerns are. And so here is a Black conservative. He hosts the Black Conservative Perspective on YouTube. His name is George Foreman. And he recently covered this interview. And I thought what he had to say was pretty interesting. So take a look.
I encourage people to get out of this very low-level thinking of what is X politician going to do for me based off my race, okay? It's just not a productive conversation, okay? You want to know the Black agenda that Trump has? You want to know the Black agenda from Trump, okay? Since Black people want to talk about what are you going to do for me? No tax on tips, in which you have a lot of Black people working these service jobs that rely on tip wages. Okay, like, for example, they always want to use the stereotypical Black barbershop, right? You know, barbers, hey, tips go a long way for barbers, okay? I'm not sure why every barber in America isn't telling all of their customers, hey, vote for Trump, okay? Because it's going to help me out a lot. Paying less taxes, no tax on overtime. You have a lot of Black people working jobs where you're eligible for overtime, closing the border, mass deportations. Yeah, I think that's a lot, right? That's a whole lot of money being put into Black people's pockets, okay, from the Trump agenda, right?
Okay, so I just want to quickly say I agree with the fact that the tax on tips proposal is a good thing and would help Black people for sure. There's no doubt about that. But that's pretty much all Trump has proposed, and that ain't it, bro. That is not enough on its own, considering all of the things that Trump has done against Black people. I won't go down the laundry list. I won't go down the Central Park Five. And I know you people in the comments are gonna talk about the First Step Act and he passed the First Step Act. That was not Trump's policy. He did sign it into office, but it was definitely written by a bipartisan team before Trump was ever there. So, yeah, he took credit for it, of course, because he was the president and signed it in. But at the end of the day, what has Trump really done for Black people? Not very much.
So clearly, Trump's messaging on immigration is having an impact. And I do think that Greg Abbott, the governor of Texas, of course, sending migrants to liberal cities like Chicago has actually had an impact, along with the messaging from Trump. I don't agree with mass deportations. I want to be clear about that. But remember what I was saying a few weeks ago, guys, about the specific things that Trump is saying on the campaign trail and then just repeating it over and over and over again?
Yeah, he keeps it simple. He keeps it simple, stupid. Repeats the same stuff, even though most of them are lies, and then people believe it.
You might not agree with those policies. You might think, oh, this isn't really fleshed out and I'm not buying it. You might not believe he'd actually implement these policies. But put the politics or separate the politics from the governance or the actual acts that, a politician would do once they get elected. The political messaging is clearly effective to some extent when Trump says no tax on tips. There's a lot of service workers out there who are going to find that message appealing. And so Democrats should think about that. What can we do to simplify our economic message? How can we be repetitive with that economic message until it really sinks in and people understand what we represent and what we're trying to do to benefit their lives?
I will say this. Kamala Harris has been doing that to some extent, talking about expanding the housing, talking about the tax credit for the first year of a child's life, talking about the, giving people first-time home buyers a credit. So she has been repeating those things over and over again, but it also didn't help that she copied Trump's tax on tips thing. Even though it's a good thing, it just looks bad if she copied it. But I would be more willing to think that she would do it rather than Trump, just because of the type of person that Trump is. But if you're already a Trump supporter, or you're already a Black conservative, and you're just tired of Democrats never delivering, because that's what's really happening. Democrats tend to not deliver on what they say they're going to do, and a lot of people are tired of it. Don't get me wrong, it's not right for them to go to the Republican side because they're not going to do anything. But they're also just fed up with Democrats not doing anything, or as much as they said they would do. And that's what's going on here.
I do see Trump doing that to some extent. And I think with Kamala Harris, she's starting to kind of get her stride when it comes to economic messaging. but she's not quite there yet. And then, what Foreman said there about a universal program or universal policies as opposed to race-based policies, I tend to agree with, mostly because broad-based policies, universal policies tend to be more popular. That's why it's been impossible for Republicans to do away with Social Security and Medicare. Those are major social safety net programs that have universal appeal because they apply to everyone. So just something to keep in mind. Okay.
Okay, I just want to, I'll go ahead and end this here, but I just want to quickly say, while I don't think there should be wagging or people saying, hey, what are you going to do for me? Or people saying, why aren't you wagging your finger at white men, white women, etc. I don't think anybody should be talking down to anybody. However, I do think that when there is a disproportionate lack of equity amongst people of different demographics, like Black people, for example, historically, I mean, I don't have to go into the whole slavery thing, but you know that it's real. I think that it does make sense to make policies that benefit those groups because historically, if you look at the Civil Rights Act and other social groups that were aimed at helping more disenfranchised groups or minority groups in the country, it does end up benefiting everybody. So yeah, calling it a Black program may not be popular, but we know that some of these things need to be aimed at helping Black and brown people, and it will end up helping everybody as a whole. I just wanted to throw that out there. But anyways, I'm going to go ahead and wrap it up here. Go ahead and like and subscribe if you can. Again, new channel. I'm trying to get to 100 subscribers now. I know it's a low number, but hey, we got to start somewhere, right? But yeah, thanks you guys for watching. Peace.